All the characters in the story are over 18 years old. When the events of this story began to unfold, my parents were under 40 years old. More precisely, my father is already 40 and my mother is 38. And I just recently came of age. Our family is very ordinary. My father worked at the factory in shifts. Mom, at the same factory in accounting, and I studied. My father drank, but was not addicted to alcohol. And Mom didn't use it at all. Very few and rare. In the middle of May, our neighbors from above celebrated my aunt's birthday. She was not just a neighbor, but also a close friend of Mom. Naturally, my parents were also invited. My father just sat at the table then, because he had to go to work on the third shift. And Mom, having accepted her norm, only had fun. They returned home together, although judging by the stomping and music from the ceiling, the fun was still going on. My father left, and my mother began to prepare for bed, since it was already 10:30. But then the doorbell rang. My aunt came and persuaded my mother to go back to them and help with the dishes. It was already the first hour, and Mom was still not there. There had been no music coming from above for a long time, and there was no movement or loud conversations. I decided to go to the neighbors, since my mother did not take the keys with her, and I had to go to bed already. Thinking that she was still helping her aunt, I wanted to give her the keys. I started to climb the stairs to the 5th floor and noticed a couple in love. On the landing between the 5th and 4th floors, near the garbage chute. I had no idea that my mother could be there. So I continued walking up a few steps, looking closely at the couple. I was just stunned, recognizing his mother in a woman. I don't know how events would have developed further. I probably would have stood there surprised by what I saw. But then I heard a door open on the 5th floor and someone walking towards the stairs. I quickly retreated, finding myself on my landing, and heard my aunt's loud and angry voice. "She's a married woman. I don't have any brains at all." I distinctly heard my mother say something indistinct in her defense. And as she put down the trash bucket, she began to help her mother down the stairs. It took me a split second to be outside the door of our apartment, in the hallway, closing the door quietly behind me. Meanwhile, my aunt brought my mother to our door and asked about it. "Do you even have a key so that you don't wake your son?" Judging by the fact that Mom was saying something incomprehensible and laughing in response, she was very drunk. As drunk as I've ever been in my life. I went to my room and lay down in my bed. My son did well. He guessed not to close the door. The next thing I heard was my aunt's voice when the door opened. My aunt didn't even go into the hallway. She just pushed my mother through the open door, which leaned on the wall with both hands. Then she slammed the door behind her, removing the safety catch from the lock. Listening to the noises in the hallway and the indistinct mumbling of my mother, I realized that she could not move on her own to get into her bedroom. 10 minutes later, I made up my mind and left the room, pretending that I had just woken up. To see a mature woman, and it doesn't matter that it was Mom. I walked up to her in a tight line and spoke to her. "Well, you're drunk." Mom listlessly raised her lowered head at my voice. "Come on, I'll take you to bed," I said, unsure if my mother could hear and understand my words in such a deranged state. "Lie down," I said in a trembling voice, leading her to the bed in the bedroom. I couldn't help myself and took advantage of her condition. We did it. Suddenly, rustling and strange sounds were heard from the bedroom. I got out of bed and already from the hallway I saw my mother, turning over on her stomach, trying to slide to the floor. At the same time, it was clear from her urges that she was very sick. I quickly brought the basin in which she was mopping the floors into the bedroom and put it on the bed near her head. While she was clearing her stomach, I brought a cup of water and a towel. When she was done, I gave her a drink of water and wiped her face with a towel. After Mom cleared her stomach, it even seemed to me that she sobered up a little, because she thanked me clearly. However, she climbed back onto the bed only with my help. When I woke up in the morning, I looked into the bedroom. Mom was still asleep. I didn't wake her up, had breakfast, and went to study. I don't know what she said to her father, who returned from work, about his well-being. But when I returned, my mother was still sleeping it off, although she had already changed her clothes and moved into my room on the bed. "Have you come yet?" Mom asked in a hoarse, weak voice, waking up from sleep, opening her reddened eyes. "And where is the father?" "Probably went to the garage to put a new carburetor," I suggested, because my father was not at home. Now I'll get up, feed you, my mother said, having already cleared her voice and tried to get out of bed, but apparently from the dizziness that is inherent in a hangover syndrome, she swayed. She smiled shyly at me and said, I feel so bad today. I think so, I said, smiling back. What time did I arrive yesterday? What is it? She asked, still getting out of bed and straightening the bedspread on top of which she slept. I don't know, I was already asleep. Only at night I got up at about 3 o'clock. I served you a basin when you were sick, I replied. I vaguely remember that. Thank you, my love. And I asked, you just don't tell your father anything, okay? Okay. My father had not yet returned from the garage when my aunt came to us. I opened the door. My aunt and mom locked themselves in the kitchen, and I'm sure that they will talk about last night and a not unimportant issue that directly concerned me. So I pretended to stay in my room to do my homework, and quietly, as soon as the kitchen door was firmly closed, I went into the bathroom. Although the women were talking in low voices, however, I could hear everything clearly through the ventilation grate. He got you drunk? I was just going to see you off, took you out into the hallway, and I went back for a bucket of garbage to throw it away on the way. I see? And you're already gone. I thought you left on your own. The women changed the subject, and I hurried to my room so as not to be discovered, and soon my father returned. But after meeting with a friend, he was replaced by an even more severe and painful sense of guilt for immoral behavior, which was aggravated by the unknown, with the fact of the offense committed. The meeting with my aunt clarified only a short period of time of events that had disappeared from memory, and the fear of revealing the secret, which hid a more serious offense, began to oppress my mother. The more time passed after that night, the more irritable, timid, and withdrawn Mom became. My understanding, tacit sympathy for her, and complicity brought us closer every day. Although Mom panicked, I became her soulmate, pushing all her close friends into the background. Only with me, she remained open, completely trusting me, no longer warning me not to tell my father anything about our conversations. She began to quarrel with her father more and more often, even over trifles. It was only in my presence that she felt calm and protected. Wherever she went, she took me with her, confident that only I could protect her. Mom became so suspicious and timid that she was once again afraid to leave the house and meet with neighbors. She suspected that they all knew her secret, and when she did meet by chance, she guiltily averted her eyes to the side. Even the bell at our door scared her, making her flinch. It seemed to her that all the men turned around and laughed at her. 2 months later, my mother only informed me that she was pregnant, but at the same time, continuing to hide about her betrayal to her father, 100% sure that this was the result of that night. She was on the verge of a nervous breakdown when I went on vacation with friends for 2 weeks. She cried and looked at me with pleading eyes so that I wouldn't leave her. However, a week later, when she called me, she informed me that she missed me unbearably and finally quarreled with her father. He temporarily moved to live in our cottage. I had no choice but to return home prematurely on the same day. Mom greeted me as if I hadn't been there for several years, telling in detail everything that happened while I was not with her. I'm probably already boring you with my whining, Mom said, noticing that I was only inattentive to her words for a moment. No, not at all. Soon you will hate me and leave me, which I will not survive. Smiling sadly, my mother said wistfully, why would you get into such disfavor? I tried to cheer Mom up by smiling at her affably. Mom paused, and then, with tears filling her eyes, she spoke, still in the same position. Do you remember 2 months ago it was my aunt's birthday? Well, when I came in very drunk? I remember, I answered easily. I cheated on your father then, she said breathlessly, afraid to even blink so as not to miss the expression on my face. So what? I replied calmly, as if my mother cheated on my father every day, and there was nothing special about it. My reaction didn't just surprise Mom, it stunned her. She even thought that I didn't hear her words or misunderstood something, and her eyes stopped filling with tears, so she repeated it. I cheated on your father. So what? Do you want to tell me the details? I repeated. I've never cheated on your father in my life, but this is how it happened. Mom told me in detail everything she had learned about that unfortunate night for her. She kept saying something in her own defense, but I wasn't listening anymore, trying to think about something else. Okay, I'm going to sleep. She hurried to get out of my bed and retire to her bedroom. However, Mom had already asked loudly from the bedroom, "Well, will you forgive me?" "We'll talk tomorrow, go to sleep," I replied, wishing only that Mom would fall asleep faster. It took about a quarter of an hour, and I still did not hear the characteristic sounds for a sleeping mother. "Son, are you asleep already?" "I'm falling asleep," I answered her, with irritation in my voice. About 10 minutes later, there were sounds in the bedroom again, this time the creaking of the bed springs, saying that Mom got up from it. Mom came into my room noiselessly, as if afraid that someone might notice her. "My poor boy," she said. "Don't be afraid. Be brave," Mom stammered, encouraging me to take action. "We made love." "You're going to hate me now," Mom said, barely catching her breath, starting to reproach herself for what had happened. Now it was my turn to tell my mom frankly about that night. However, I lied a little, exposing her as the initiator of what happened. What a nightmare. I feel that everything is familiar to me. We continued to entertain each other like this for several more years, until I got a girlfriend. My father still didn't know about our adventures.